Police officer picks up his daughter after staying with her mom. What she revealed sent her dad into a panic. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the driveway as Officer Ryan Miller pulled up to his ex-wife's house. His fingers drummed anxiously on the steering wheel, a habit he'd picked up in his 12 years on the force. But today, he wasn't nervous about a case or a suspect. Today, he was picking up his 6-year-old daughter, Sophie, after her 2-week stay with her mother and stepfather. Ryan checked his watch. Sophie was usually waiting by the window, her small face pressed against the glass, ready to bolt out the door the moment his car appeared. But today, the curtains remained still. "Strange," he muttered, turning off the engine. As he approached the front door, it swung open. Lisa, his ex-wife of 3 years, stood there with an uneasy smile. "She's just getting her things," Lisa said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Marcus took her shopping yesterday. She got some new clothes." Ryan nodded, maintaining the cordial relationship they'd worked hard to build after the divorce. "How was she? Did she have fun?" Something flickered across Lisa's face. Hesitation, perhaps. She was fine. Quiet, but you know how she gets sometimes. Before Ryan could press further, Sophie appeared in the doorway, clutching her backpack to her chest like a shield. Ryan's heart sank. His daughter, normally bubbling with stories and laughter, stood silent, her eyes downcast. "Hey, sunshine!" Ryan knelt down, arms open for their usual hug. "Ready for our pizza and movie night?" Sophie nodded, but didn't run into his arms as she usually did. Instead, she took small, measured steps toward him, her shoulders hunched forward. From the shadow of the hallway, Marcus Bennett appeared, resting a hand on the doorframe. "She's been a bit tired today. Probably all the excitement from our trips to the park and the museum." Ryan nodded politely at his daughter's stepfather, a former security consultant now working for a private firm. Something about Marcus had always made Ryan uneasy, though he'd never been able to put his finger on why. "Well, we should get going," Ryan said, gently taking Sophie's hand. "Say goodbye to your mom and Marcus, sweetie." Sophie turned slightly, her voice barely audible. "Bye, Mommy. Bye, Marcus." The drive home was unusually quiet. Normally, Sophie would chatter about everything she'd done at her mother's house, the games they'd played, the shows they'd watched, the cookies they'd baked. Today, she stared out the window, her small fingers fidgeting with the zipper of her backpack. "Everything okay, sunshine?" Ryan asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "I'm tired, Daddy," she replied, her voice small. Ryan's police instincts, the same ones that had saved his life more than once, were sending warning signals to his brain. Something wasn't right. At home, Sophie picked at her pizza, barely eating 2 bites before asking to be excused. Ryan watched her trudge up the stairs to her bedroom, the yellow room he'd painted himself when they moved in after the divorce. He'd chosen yellow because Sophie said it was like sunshine that stays even when it's raining. After cleaning up, Ryan knocked gently on her door. "Sophie, can I come in?" He found her sitting cross-legged on her bed, staring at her teddy bears lined up against the pillows. "Not hungry tonight, huh?" he asked, sitting beside her, the mattress dipping under his weight. Sophie shook her head, still not looking at him. "Did something happen at Mom's house?" Ryan asked carefully, his heart racing. Finally, Sophie turned to him, her eyes brimming with tears. "I saw something, Daddy. Something I wasn't supposed to see." Ryan's protective instincts flared. "What did you see, sunshine?" Sophie's lower lip trembled. She pointed to the space under her bed. "I hid it there." Ryan knelt down and reached under the bed frame. His fingers found something plastic, a small USB drive wrapped in a folded piece of paper. He carefully unfolded the paper to find a child's drawing. Dark figures in what looked like a basement, surrounding a golden box with strange symbols. "Sophie, what is this?" he asked, his voice steady despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. "The bad men in the basement," she whispered. "They had the golden box. They said it was worth more than our house. One of them saw me watching." Her voice broke. "They said if I told anyone, they would take me away forever, and nobody would ever find me." Ryan's world tilted on its axis as he looked at the fear in his daughter's eyes. In that moment, he wasn't just a police officer or an ex-husband. He was a father facing the most important case of his life. "Listen to me, Sophie," he said, taking her small hands in his. "I will never, ever, let anyone take you away. Do you understand me? Never." As Sophie nodded, a single tear rolling down her cheek, Ryan made a silent promise. Whoever had threatened his daughter would regret the day they'd brought darkness into her yellow room, the one place she was supposed to feel completely safe. Outside, the last light of day faded from the sky, and somewhere in the distance, a car engine started, then slowly drove away. Ryan spent most of the night sitting in a chair beside Sophie's bed, watching her restless sleep. Every few hours, she would whimper and turn, her small hands clutching her blanket tightly. Around 3 in the morning, she woke up screaming, "They're coming, Daddy, the men with the golden box." Ryan gathered her in his arms, her tiny body trembling against his chest. "It's okay, sunshine. I'm here. Nobody's coming." As he held her, Ryan's mind raced between his paternal instinct to protect Sophie and his police training that demanded careful investigation. The USB drive sat on his nightstand, waiting to be examined. When Sophie finally fell back asleep, Ryan went to his home office and plugged the drive into his laptop. Most files appeared corrupted, but one opened partially, a blurry image of what looked like an ancient artifact with intricate engravings. The next morning, Ryan called Sophie's school and took the day off work. After making pancakes shaped like stars, Sophie's favorite, he gently asked her more about what she'd seen. "The men were in the basement," she said, pushing her pancakes around on her plate. "Marcus and the man in the suit were opening the golden box. They said the museum would never know." "Did they see you, sweetheart?" Sophie nodded, her eyes welling up. "The man in the suit saw me. He said—" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He said he knows where I sleep." A cold fury settled in Ryan's chest. He pulled out his phone and texted his partner at the police department, Detective Samantha Hayes. "Need to talk. Personal matter. Coffee in an hour?" When he dropped Sophie at school, her teacher, Ms. Winters, pulled him aside. "Sophie's been drawing the same symbol repeatedly," she said, showing him a page covered with a strange geometric shape. "Is everything okay at home?" "We're working through some things," Ryan replied carefully. "If you notice anything else unusual, would you let me know?" At the coffee shop, Samantha listened without interruption as Ryan explained the situation. "So you think your ex-wife's husband is involved in some kind of theft or smuggling?" she asked, keeping her voice low. "I don't know, but Sophie's terrified, and that USB drive definitely shows some kind of artifact." Samantha nodded thoughtfully. "I'll quietly check if there have been any reports of stolen artifacts from museums. In the meantime, document everything Sophie tells you." Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop asking questions about what your daughter saw. Children have overactive imaginations." He showed Samantha the message, his hand slightly shaking. "Ryan," she said, her voice serious, "you need to get Sophie to a child psychologist, today." Dr. Eleanor James specialized in helping children process traumatic experiences. Her office was filled with toys, puppets, and art supplies, tools that helped kids express what they couldn't say with words. Sophie sat cross-legged on a colorful rug, arranging dolls in what looked like a basement setting. "Can you tell me about your drawing, Sophie?" Dr. James asked gently. Sophie pointed to a male doll in a dark suit. "This is the man who saw me. He told Marcus they had to move the golden box because it wasn't safe anymore." She positioned a small female doll hiding behind a door. "That's me. I wasn't supposed to see." Dr. James made notes while Ryan watched through a one-way mirror, his heart breaking. After the session, Dr. James spoke to Ryan privately. "Sophie hasn't been physically harmed," she assured him first, "but she's processing something genuinely traumatic. She witnessed something that frightened her, and then was threatened, which compounds the trauma." "What should I do?" Ryan asked. "Keep her routine normal, make her feel safe, and document everything she tells you." That afternoon, Ryan visited Lisa with the excuse of picking up Sophie's favorite stuffed animal that had been left behind. "She's been having nightmares," Ryan explained at the door. Lisa seemed nervous, repeatedly glancing over her shoulder. "Come in, Marcus is out on business." As they searched Sophie's room at Lisa's house, Ryan casually asked, "Has Sophie been acting differently here?" "What do you mean?" Lisa's voice had an edge to it. Just wondering if she's had trouble sleeping here too. Before Lisa could answer, the front door opened. Marcus appeared in the doorway, surprise quickly masked by a too wide smile. "Ryan, didn't expect to see you today." "Just getting Mr. Whiskers," Ryan replied, holding up the stuffed cat. "Sophie can't sleep without him." Marcus nodded, then checked his watch pointedly. "Lisa, we have that dinner reservation at 7. As Ryan was leaving, he noticed a locked door in the hallway leading to the basement. "Storage?" he asked casually. "Just tools and old furniture," Marcus answered quickly. "Nothing interesting." In the car, Ryan discovered a small piece of paper tucked into Mr. Whiskers' paw, a series of numbers that looked like a combination, written in Sophie's uneven handwriting. "I'm worried about Sophie," Ryan told Lisa the next day, having asked her to meet him at a coffee shop near her work. "She's drawing disturbing pictures and talking about men threatening her." Ryan showed her Sophie's drawings of the basement and the golden box. Lisa's face paled. "Ryan, you know how imaginative she is. She probably saw something on TV." "Lisa," Ryan interrupted, "Sophie described men in your basement with a stolen artifact. She's terrified." Lisa's hands trembled as she set down her coffee cup. "Marcus has been working late. He's had colleagues over. They use the basement office." She trailed off, uncertainty in her eyes. "Has he brought home anything unusual? Any artifacts or artwork?" "No, I mean—" Lisa hesitated. "He's been locking the basement lately. Says it's for work security." "Lisa, if something illegal is happening in your home—" "Stop it," she snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. "Marcus is a good provider. He's been good to Sophie. Then why is our daughter hiding USB drives and writing down door codes?" Ryan placed the paper with the combination on the table. Lisa stared at it, recognition flickering across her face. That's the code to the basement door." As Ryan left, Lisa called after him, her voice barely audible. "If you're right, he'll take Sophie away from me too." That night, as Ryan tucked Sophie into bed, she clutched his hand tightly. "Daddy, the man in the suit knows where we live," she whispered. "I saw him watching our house today." Ryan's blood ran cold. He checked all the windows and doors twice before calling his friend Michael, a former military security specialist. "I need your help," Ryan explained. "Someone's threatening my daughter." The next morning, Ryan found a note slipped under his front door. "She saw too much. Accidents happen to curious children." Michael arrived with security equipment, cameras, motion sensors, and reinforced locks. "Whoever wrote that note is trying to scare you," Michael said as he installed a camera overlooking the front yard. "But threats against kids cross a line. I'm staying in your guest room until this is resolved." Ryan nodded gratefully. "I need to keep investigating while keeping Sophie safe." "What do we know about this Marcus guy?" Ryan pulled up the background check he'd run. Marcus Bennett, 42, former security consultant for museums and private collectors, now works for Elite Guard Security. No criminal record, but his previous employer was investigated for alleged involvement in artifact theft, though nothing was proven. "Museum theft," Michael mused. "That matches Sophie's story about a golden box." That evening, while Sophie drew pictures at the kitchen table, a news segment about a museum exhibition caught her attention. She froze, crayon in midair, as a man in an expensive suit appeared on screen. "Daddy," she whispered, "that's him, the man from the basement." Ryan quickly took a photo of the screen with his phone. The caption identified the man as Raymond Wells, a prominent antiquities dealer. Later, after Sophie was asleep, Ryan researched Wells. Several articles mentioned controversies surrounding his acquisition methods, though he'd never been charged with any crime. Ryan's phone rang. "Samantha." "I found something," she said without preamble. "The National History Museum reported a theft 3 weeks ago. A Mesopotamian artifact, a golden box with ancient documents inside. The museum kept it quiet while they investigated internally." "That fits Sophie's timeline at Lisa's house," Ryan said, the pieces starting to connect. "Ryan," Samantha's voice grew serious, "if your daughter witnessed this theft and these people know she can identify them—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. They both knew what happened to witnesses who could bring down valuable criminal operations. "I'm coming over tomorrow to show Sophie some photos," Samantha said. "If she can identify Wells or anyone else, we can move on this officially." After hanging up, Ryan checked on Sophie, then walked through the house, making sure every window and door was secure. As he passed her bedroom, the yellow room that should have been her safe haven, he noticed the window was slightly ajar. Heart pounding, he rushed inside. Nothing seemed disturbed, but when he checked Sophie's desk, he found her drawings had been rifled through. On her mirror, written in what looked like lipstick, were the words, "We are watching." Sophie screamed when she saw the message on her mirror. Ryan held her tightly, his police instincts at war with his fatherly panic. "We're moving to a hotel tonight," he decided, grabbing essential items while Michael stood guard. At the station the next morning, Sophie sat in the children's interview room with Dr. James, while Ryan and Samantha watched through the one-way glass. Using puppets, Sophie reenacted what she'd seen in the basement. "I was thirsty and went downstairs for water," she explained, moving the small girl puppet. "I heard voices from the basement and peeked through the door." She positioned the puppets representing Marcus and Wells opening a box. "They said the museum would never know, and nobody would suspect an ex-policeman." "Ex-policeman?" Samantha whispered to Ryan. "Could she mean Marcus?" "He was never police," Ryan replied, frowning. "Private security only." Sophie continued her puppet story. "They saw me watching. The man in the suit said I had to be a good girl and forget everything, or something bad would happen to Mommy." Dr. James gently confirmed what she'd told Ryan earlier. Sophie hadn't been physically harmed, but she was traumatized by witnessing something dangerous and being threatened afterward. While Sophie rested with a police officer watching over her, Ryan called Lisa. "We need to talk, now." 30 minutes later, Lisa sat pale-faced in the station conference room as Ryan showed her photos of the museum theft, Sophie's drawings, and the threatening message left in her room. "This is happening in your house, Lisa," Ryan said firmly. "Our daughter is being threatened by dangerous people, and I need to know what you know." Lisa broke down. "I found Marcus arguing with Wells about splitting profits evenly and making sure the girl stays quiet. When I asked, he said it was work stress." She looked up, tears streaming down her face. "There have been strange objects appearing and disappearing from our house. Last month, Marcus bought a new car with cash. I need the security code to your basement," Ryan said, "and I need you to be ready to help us catch these people." Lisa nodded, determination replacing fear in her eyes. "What do you need me to do?" With Lisa now cooperating, the investigation accelerated. She provided access codes, schedules of Marcus's meetings, and names of frequent visitors to their home. "He's planning something big," Lisa explained. "I overheard him talking about a final delivery happening soon." Meanwhile, Sophie had grown slightly more comfortable at the safe house where Ryan had moved them temporarily. During an art therapy session, she revealed her biggest secret. "I didn't just see the golden box, Daddy," she whispered, pulling out a folded paper from her stuffed animal. "I copied part of a map that was on the table. The drawing showed what appeared to be a mountain location, with a structure marked by an X. At the bottom was the same symbol Sophie had been drawing obsessively, what looked like an ancient lock or key. Samantha brought in a museum curator, who confirmed the symbol matched engravings on the stolen Mesopotamian artifact. "This is remarkable," the curator said, examining Sophie's drawing. "This symbol represents a royal seal from the 3rd dynasty of Ur, circa 2000 BCE. The stolen reliquary contained historical documents of immense value. So this isn't just about selling a gold box," Ryan realized. "It's about what's inside it." Lisa arrived at the station with new information. "Marcus is hosting a dinner party tomorrow night for his business associates. Everyone will be there, including Wells." Samantha smiled grimly. "Sounds like the perfect opportunity for us to search that basement thoroughly." That night, Ryan sat beside Sophie's bed in their temporary safe house. "You've been so brave," he told her, smoothing her hair. "Are you going to catch the bad men, Daddy?" she asked, her eyes wide. "Yes, sunshine. Thanks to you, we're going to catch them." Sophie's next question caught him off guard. "After you catch them, will the nightmares go away?" Ryan gathered her in his arms. I promise I'll do everything I can to make you feel safe again. That's my job as your dad. Sophie nodded solemnly. That's why you're the best daddy. You keep the bad things away. The plan was set. Lisa would host the dinner party, keeping Marcus and his associates occupied upstairs. Ryan and Samantha, posing as catering staff, would access the basement using Sophie's code. Meanwhile, Sophie would stay with Michael at the safe house, surrounded by police protection. Before leaving, Ryan had a moment alone with Sophie. When will you come back? She asked, clutching Mr. Whiskers. Before you wake up tomorrow, Ryan promised. And when this is all over, we'll repaint your yellow room however you want. Sophie nodded seriously. With stars on the ceiling? Real ones that glow? Absolutely, Ryan smiled, hiding his concern behind fatherly confidence. At Lisa's house, the dinner party was underway. 6 guests, including Raymond Wells, gathered in the dining room while Lisa played the perfect hostess. She caught Ryan's eye as he moved through the kitchen in his catering uniform and gave a subtle nod. Using the code Sophie had provided, Ryan and Samantha slipped into the basement. Behind the locked door was a sophisticated office setup with multiple computers and what appeared to be a small photography studio. Look at this, Samantha whispered, pointing to a wall safe. That's not standard home equipment. They methodically photographed everything, files listing buyer names and prices, photographs of various artifacts including the golden box, and shipping manifests with international destinations. This is bigger than we thought, Ryan murmured, examining a document listing museum security protocols. They're targeting multiple museums. As they prepared to leave, Ryan noticed a familiar name on one of the shipping labels. Michael Kessler, his friend who was currently guarding Sophie. Before he could process this betrayal, the basement door opened. Marcus stood there, a cold smile on his face. Officer Miller, I've been expecting you. Behind him stood one of the dinner guests, a police officer from Ryan's own precinct. You didn't really think Sophie's little drawings would go unnoticed, did you? We've been monitoring your investigation from the beginning. Ryan's mind raced to Sophie at the safe house, supposedly protected by Michael, who was apparently part of the smuggling ring. Your daughter is quite the artist, Marcus continued, pulling out his phone to show a live feed of Sophie playing a board game with Michael. It would be a shame if anything happened to her. Ryan lunged forward but was restrained by the corrupt officer. Upstairs, a commotion broke out as other officers from Samantha's task force entered the house. You're too late, Marcus smiled, pressing a button on his phone. The final shipment is already in motion. And now, you have a choice to make, Officer Miller. The security feed switched to show Sophie, still unaware of any danger, as Michael received a text message and glanced at the camera. What's it going to be? Marcus asked quietly. The artifacts or your daughter? You won't touch her, Ryan growled, struggling against his restraint. That depends entirely on you, Marcus replied smoothly. Here's the situation. Your friend Michael has received instructions. If I don't call him in the next 10 minutes with a specific code, he takes Sophie to a location where you'll never find her. Samantha slowly moved her hand toward her concealed weapon, but the corrupt officer noticed. I wouldn't, he warned. Upstairs, the sounds of the police raid continued, but they were running out of time. What do you want? Ryan asked, his mind racing. Safe passage, Marcus answered. My associates and I leave with our merchandise. You get your daughter back safely. Ryan looked at the evidence they'd gathered, proof of an international smuggling operation that had stolen priceless historical artifacts. If Marcus escaped, the trail might go cold forever. But Sophie's safety came first. Always. Let me call Michael, Ryan demanded. I need to hear Sophie's voice. Marcus considered this, then nodded. Speakerphone only. Ryan dialed, his heart pounding. When Michael answered, the betrayal in his friend's voice was clear. Ryan, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. Let me talk to Sophie, Ryan insisted. There was a shuffling sound, then Sophie's voice came through. Daddy, when are you coming back? Mr. Michael says we might go on a trip. Soon, sunshine, Ryan managed, his voice steady despite his racing heart. I love you very much. Remember that. As the call ended, a commotion erupted from upstairs. Lisa screamed, followed by a crash. Marcus looked momentarily distracted, and in that split second, Samantha acted. She kicked the corrupt officer's legs out from under him while Ryan broke free and tackled Marcus. In the struggle, Marcus's phone skidded across the floor. Ryan pinned him down while Samantha recovered the phone and called the safe house team. "Officer down. Possible hostile on site with the child. Arrest Michael Kessler immediately." The next moments passed in a blur. The corrupt officer was handcuffed. Marcus, realizing his leverage was gone as police stormed the basement, made a desperate attempt to flee. In the confusion, he escaped through a hidden door in the basement wall, taking a small package with him. "He's getting away," Ryan shouted. "Go," Samantha urged. "I've got this scene. Sophie needs you." Ryan raced to his car and sped toward the safe house, lights flashing. His phone rang. "Samantha. We've secured the safe house. Michael's in custody. Sophie's safe, Ryan. She's safe." Relief flooded through him, but it was short-lived. "Marcus got away with the key to the reliquary," Samantha continued. "And according to the documents we found, there's a final exchange happening tonight at a place called Eagle's Nest." Ryan's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "I know where that is. It's a lookout point in the mountains, about an hour from here." At the safe house, Ryan burst through the door to find Sophie sitting with a female officer, coloring peacefully. When she saw him, she ran into his arms. "The police lady said Mr. Michael was a bad man," Sophie whispered against his chest. "Did I do something wrong, Daddy?" Ryan held her tightly. "No, sunshine, you did everything exactly right. You're the bravest person I know." As Sophie clung to him, Ryan made his decision. The smugglers might escape tonight, but his daughter needed him more than any ancient artifact did. But Sophie, looking up at him with those wise eyes, surprised him again. "You need to catch the man with the golden box, don't you, Daddy?" Ryan nodded slowly. "Yes, but then you should go," she said with the simple clarity of a child. "Mommy can stay with me. You need to finish catching all the bad men." Lisa arrived at the safe house, her eyes red from crying. When Sophie saw her mother, she ran into her arms. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Lisa whispered, holding Sophie tight. "I should have protected you better." Ryan watched the reunion with mixed emotions. Part of him was still angry at Lisa for not noticing what was happening in her own home. But he knew she'd been manipulated by Marcus just as Michael had betrayed him. "Lisa," Ryan said gently, "I need to go after Marcus. He's meeting buyers tonight to sell the artifacts. Can you stay with Sophie?" Lisa nodded firmly. "I won't let her out of my sight, not for a second." Ryan knelt beside Sophie. "I have to go catch the last bad man, Sunshine. Your mom's going to stay with you, and there are police officers all around the house." Sophie's small hand touched his cheek. "Be careful, Daddy. The man in the suit said the golden box has magic." Ryan smiled reassuringly. "I don't believe in magic, but I do believe in you. And when I get back, we'll start planning that new ceiling for your yellow room." Outside, Ryan met with Samantha and the tactical team. The operation was rapidly taking shape. Satellite images of Eagle's Nest, surveillance photos of known associates of Wells and Marcus, and the evidence they'd gathered from the basement. The museum curator confirmed that what Marcus took was a ceremonial key, Samantha explained, showing Ryan photos. The reliquary itself contains historical documents that could be worth millions to private collectors. "How did Michael get involved in this?" Ryan asked, still struggling with his friend's betrayal. "He worked security for the same company as Marcus 5 years ago," Samantha replied. "When we interviewed him, he broke down pretty quickly, said they recruited him because of his connection to you. They needed someone close to monitor your investigation." Ryan shook his head, the betrayal still stinging. "And the officer from our precinct? On Wells's payroll for over a year. He was feeding them information about museum security protocols. The tactical commander outlined the plan. They would approach Eagle's Nest from multiple angles, securing all escape routes before moving in. The area was remote, a scenic overlook on a mountain ridge, accessible by only one narrow road with a sheer drop on one side. "Perfect spot for an exchange," the commander noted. "Easy to spot anyone approaching, limited access points, and probably chosen for its symbolic name too. These smuggling rings love their dramatic flair." As darkness fell, Ryan rode in the lead vehicle, His mind split between the operation ahead and Sophie back at the safe house. His phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, a photo of Sophie sleeping peacefully with the caption, "She's safe, go get him." The convoy stopped a mile from Eagle's Nest, continuing on foot to avoid detection. Through night vision binoculars, Ryan could see 3 vehicles parked at the lookout point. Figures moved in the darkness. At least 6 people gathered around what appeared to be a table set up near the edge of the cliff. "I count 8 suspects," the tactical commander whispered into his radio. "4 armed. Looks like the exchange is about to happen." Ryan recognized Marcus standing at the center, holding what must be the golden box. Beside him was Raymond Wells, speaking to a man Ryan didn't recognize, presumably the buyer. "On my signal," the commander breathed. The night exploded into action as spotlights suddenly illuminated the lookout area. "Police, don't move, you're surrounded." Most of the suspects froze, but Marcus grabbed the reliquary and bolted toward a narrow trail that descended the back of the ridge. Ryan immediately gave chase, following him down the treacherous path as rocks skittered beneath their feet. "Stop! Police!" Ryan shouted, but Marcus kept running. The trail narrowed until it ended at a small ledge overlooking a steep drop. Marcus turned, the golden box clutched against his chest, his face illuminated by the rising moon. "It's over, Marcus," Ryan said, approaching cautiously. "There's nowhere to go." "This isn't just about money," Marcus replied, his voice strangely calm. "Do you have any idea what's in this box? Documents that could rewrite history. Whoever possesses them controls the narrative." "They don't belong to you," Ryan countered, inching closer. "They belong to history. To everyone." Marcus laughed bitterly. "That's what museums say to justify hoarding cultural treasures." He stepped backward, dangerously close to the edge. "I'm not going to prison, Ryan." "Think about Sophie," Ryan urged. "She's just a child." Was threatening her really necessary? Something flickered across Marcus's face, perhaps regret. "Business is business. I never would have hurt her. You terrified her. She'll have nightmares for years because of you." As they talked, Ryan continued moving slowly forward. Marcus took another step back, and suddenly part of the ledge crumbled beneath his foot. He stumbled, losing his balance. The golden box slipped from his grasp, sliding toward the cliff edge. In that critical moment, Ryan had to choose: grab Marcus or save the priceless artifact. Without hesitation, he lunged for the reliquary, catching it just before it went over the edge. Marcus seized the opportunity to push past Ryan and escape up the trail, but his freedom was short-lived. At the top of the path, Samantha was waiting with 2 tactical officers. "Marcus Bennett," she said, holstering her weapon as the officers secured him. "You're under arrest for theft, smuggling, extortion, and threatening a minor. You have the right to remain silent." Ryan climbed back up the trail, the ancient reliquary safe in his hands. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe again. The museum's special exhibition hall was filled with reporters and dignitaries. At the center, in a custom-designed display case, sat the recovered Mesopotamian reliquary, the golden box that had caused so much fear and pain. Ryan stood at the back of the crowd, uncomfortable in his dress uniform. Sophie sat beside him in a new yellow dress, swinging her legs and occasionally whispering questions about the ceremony. "Is that really the same box from the basement, Daddy?" "Yes, sunshine, the very same one." "It doesn't look scary anymore," she observed. Ryan smiled. Things are only scary when they're in the wrong hands. The museum director was making a speech about the historical significance of the artifacts and the bravery of the police officers who had recovered them. Ryan only half listened, more focused on Sophie and how she was handling being back in public after weeks of protective isolation. When the director called Ryan's name, asking him to come forward and accept a special commendation, Sophie nudged him. "Go on, Daddy. You're the hero." Ryan reluctantly approached the podium, where the museum director handed him a framed certificate and shook his hand enthusiastically for the cameras. As he turned to leave the stage, the director stopped him. "Officer Miller, there's someone else we'd like to recognize today." He gestured toward Sophie. "Would your daughter join us, please?" Ryan looked uncertainly at Sophie, but she was already making her way to the stage, her yellow dress bright against the museum's subdued colors. The museum curator knelt to Sophie's level, her voice gentle but carrying through the microphone. "Sophie, your drawings helped us understand what was taken and where to find it. You saw what many adults couldn't see, and you were brave enough to tell your father the truth, even when you were scared." She presented Sophie with a small crystal replica of the reliquary, inscribed with her name. "This is to remind you that history is preserved by people who pay attention and speak up when something isn't right." Sophie accepted the crystal with wide eyes, then surprised everyone by addressing the crowd. "My daddy says everybody has a job to do. His job is catching bad people. My job was remembering what I saw." The audience broke into spontaneous applause, and Ryan felt a surge of pride so intense it brought tears to his eyes. After the ceremony, as they were leaving the museum, they ran into Lisa, who had attended but kept her distance, uncertain of her welcome. "You did wonderfully, Sophie," she said, kneeling to hug her daughter. Sophie beamed. "Did you see my crystal box, Mommy? It's just like the real one, but tiny." "I did. It's beautiful." Lisa looked up at Ryan. "Can we talk for a minute?" Ryan nodded, and they stepped aside while Sophie examined her crystal under the museum lights. "The court granted me supervised visitation," Lisa said quietly. "I start therapy next week. I just wanted you to know I'm doing everything they recommended." "That's good," Ryan replied, his tone softer than it had been in weeks. "Sophie needs both of us." "I should have noticed," Lisa said, her voice breaking slightly. "I should have protected her better." Ryan sighed. "We all missed things we should have seen. What matters is what we do now." As they watched Sophie proudly showing her crystal to a museum security guard, Lisa added, "She's stronger than we give her credit for." "Yes," Ryan agreed. "She definitely is." The next few weeks were filled with court proceedings, interviews, and therapy sessions. Raymond Wells and his international network of buyers were facing federal charges. Marcus had agreed to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. The corrupt police officer was awaiting trial, along with 3 other accomplices. Michael, whose betrayal had cut Ryan the deepest, had written a letter of apology from jail. Ryan couldn't bring himself to read it yet, but he'd kept it, tucked away for when the wound wasn't so fresh. Through it all, Sophie was showing remarkable resilience. Dr. James, her therapist, said children often recovered more quickly than adults expected, especially when they felt safe and heard. "She knows she did the right thing by telling you what she saw," Dr. James explained during a parent consultation. "And she saw that telling the truth led to justice. That's powerful for a child her age." Still, there were nightmares, nights when Sophie would wake up crying, convinced someone was watching her through her window. Ryan had installed new security features throughout the house, but he knew the real healing would take time, which was why today was so important. "Close your eyes, Sunshine," Ryan instructed, leading Sophie by the hand down the hallway of their home. "No peeking," Sophie giggled, her hands obediently covering her eyes. "Is it ready? Really ready?" "Absolutely ready," Ryan confirmed, positioning her in the doorway of her bedroom. "Okay, open." Sophie's gasp of delight was everything Ryan had hoped for. Her yellow room had been completely transformed. The walls were still the warm sunshine yellow she loved, but now they featured hand-painted murals of a magical forest, with friendly animals peeking from behind trees. The ceiling was a deep blue night sky, studded with realistic stars that would glow after the lights went out. But the most special feature was the reading nook built into the corner, a small, cozy space with cushions and a tiny bookshelf enclosed by gauzy curtains that could be drawn for privacy. "It's a special place just for you," Ryan explained. "A place where you're always safe to read or think or dream." Sophie walked slowly around the room, touching the painted trees and animals with gentle fingers. When she reached the reading nook, she parted the curtains and sat inside, her face glowing with wonder. "Daddy, it's the most beautiful room in the whole world." Ryan knelt beside the nook. "I had some help." He gestured toward the doorway, where Lisa stood hesitantly. "Your mom painted the animals. She remembered all your favorites." Sophie looked at her mother with new eyes. "Even the foxes, they're perfect." Lisa smiled softly. "I'm glad you like them, sweetheart." As Sophie explored every inch of her new room, Lisa moved closer to Ryan. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." Ryan nodded. "We're still her parents, no matter what. She needs to see us working together." A knock at the front door interrupted them. Ryan opened it to find Samantha, holding a small gift bag. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," she said. "I just wanted to bring Sophie a little housewarming present for her new room." Inside the bag was a beautiful dream catcher, handmade with feathers and colorful beads. "My grandmother's tribe believes these catch bad dreams and only let the good ones through," Samantha explained as Sophie examined it with fascination. "Can we hang it right now, Daddy? Over my bed?" As Ryan carefully attached the dream catcher to the ceiling, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in months. The case was closed, justice had been served, and most importantly, Sophie was healing. The Yellow Room, once a place of fear and hidden secrets, was becoming a sanctuary again. That night, after Sophie had fallen asleep beneath her starry ceiling, Ryan sat in the living room with a cup of tea, reviewing case files for work. A text message from Samantha interrupted his concentration. "Thought you'd want to know. International authorities just arrested the last of Wells' network in Prague. It's really over." Ryan typed back a quick thanks and set down his phone. It was over. The smuggling ring was dismantled, the artifacts returned, the guilty facing consequences. Yet something still nagged at him. A loose end he couldn't quite identify. He pulled out the case files again, flipping through photos and reports, searching for whatever his instincts were trying to tell him. There, in a photo of Marcus's basement office, a small detail he'd overlooked. A calendar on the wall with a date circled in red, next Tuesday. Written beside it in small letters, "Final transfer, Phase 2. Ryan frowned. All the recovered artifacts had been inventoried and returned. What was Phase 2? He was reaching for his phone to call Samantha when a scream pierced the quiet house. "Daddy!" Ryan bolted up the stairs to Sophie's room, his heart pounding. He found her sitting upright in bed, tears streaming down her face, the dream catcher swinging gently above her. "It didn't work, Daddy," she sobbed as he gathered her in his arms. The bad dream still came. "What happened in the dream, Sunshine?" Ryan asked, holding her close. "The man in the suit, he was here. He said they're coming back for the other box, the one that's still hidden." She looked up at Ryan with frightened eyes. "Is there another box, Daddy? Did they hide more than one?" Ryan's mind raced back to the calendar in Marcus's office. Phase 2. Could there be another artifact they hadn't recovered? "It was just a dream," he reassured Sophie, though he wasn't entirely convinced himself. "Remember what Samantha said about the dream catcher? It needs time to learn which dreams are the bad ones." After getting Sophie back to sleep, Ryan immediately called Samantha, explaining Sophie's dream and his discovery in the case files. "I'll go through everything again," Samantha promised, "and I'll interview Marcus first thing tomorrow. If there's another artifact still hidden, we need to find it before any remaining members of the ring do." The next morning, Ryan took Sophie to school, watching her walk into the building with a mixture of pride and concern. She'd been so brave through everything, but her nightmare worried him. Was it just normal processing of trauma, or something more? At the station, Samantha was waiting with news. "I interviewed Marcus. He claims there is no Phase 2, that it was just a contingency plan if the initial sale fell through." "You don't believe him?" "Not entirely. And there's something else." She showed Ryan a file. "The museum conducted a full inventory after recovering the reliquary. Nothing else is missing from their Mesopotamian collection. But, they discovered something unusual inside the reliquary itself. The ancient documents were authentic, but hidden among them was a modern map." Ryan leaned forward. "A map to what?" "That's just it. They don't know. It shows what appears to be a location in the mountains, not far from Eagle's Nest. The museum thought it was just something Marcus used to mark the exchange point." Ryan's phone buzzed with a text from Sophie's school. "Sophie, very upset after art class. Asked if you could come." At the school, Ryan found Sophie in the counselor's office, clutching a drawing. "What happened, Sunshine?" Sophie wordlessly handed him the picture she'd drawn, a mountainside with a small structure, almost identical to the one from her original drawings of what she'd seen in Marcus's basement. "We were supposed to draw a scary place and then talk about how to make it not scary," she explained. "But when I drew this, I remembered something. The man in the suit said there was another treasure, bigger than the first one. He said it was hidden where the eagle builds its second nest." Ryan shared a look with the counselor. "Sophie, this is very important. Did you tell anyone else about this second treasure?" Sophie shook her head. "Just you, Daddy. I forgot about it until today." Back at the station, Ryan spread out maps of the mountain area around Eagle's Nest. There has to be a connection. The eagle builds its second nest. What could that mean? Samantha pointed to a smaller outlook point about 3 miles from Eagle's Nest. Local hiking guides call this Little Eagle. It's less known, harder to access. That must be it, Ryan realized. Wells and his people could have hidden a second artifact there, planning to retrieve it after the heat from the first operation died down. "If that's true," Samantha said grimly, "then anyone who was part of the inner circle and still free might be going after it." Ryan thought of Sophie's nightmare, the man in the suit saying they were coming back. Raymond Wells was in custody, but some of his international contacts remained at large. "We need to check it out," Ryan decided. Today, as they prepared to leave, Ryan received a call from an unknown number. When he answered, there was silence, then a click followed by a child's voice, Sophie's voice, from what must be a recording. "I saw the other box too, the one in the mountains." The call disconnected. Ryan's blood ran cold. Someone had been monitoring Sophie, recording her conversations, perhaps even at school or therapy. "We need to get Sophie," he told Samantha urgently. Now. Ryan and Samantha raced to Sophie's school, only to discover she'd already been picked up. By Lisa, according to the attendance office. "She called saying Sophie had a doctor's appointment," the secretary explained, showing them the sign-out sheet with Lisa's signature. Ryan immediately called Lisa, his fingers trembling slightly as he dialed. "Ryan?" Lisa answered, sounding confused. "What's wrong? Did you pick up Sophie from school today?" "No, I'm at work. Sophie's at school until 3, like always." Ryan's worst fears were confirmed. "Someone took her, Lisa, someone pretending to be you." After a moment of shocked silence, Lisa's voice returned, tight with fear. "What do we do?" "I need you to come to the police station right away. We're organizing search teams now." At the station, a full-scale Amber Alert was issued. Officers were dispatched to check known associates of Wells and Marcus, while technical teams traced the mysterious phone call. "The call came from a burner phone," a technician reported. "But we got a general location from the cell tower. It's in the mountain range, near the area you identified." Ryan fought to stay focused despite his mounting panic. They took her to find the second artifact. Sophie's the only one who saw the map. "But she was just a child looking through a door," Lisa protested, tears in her eyes. How could she remember details of a map? "Sophie has an extraordinary visual memory," Ryan explained. "Her therapist mentioned it. She notices and remembers details most people miss. That's why her drawings were so helpful in the investigation." A plan quickly formed. 2 tactical teams would approach the Little Eagle outlook from different directions. Ryan would be with the first team, though several superior officers had suggested he was too emotionally involved. "I'm going," he stated firmly. "Sophie will be scared. She needs to see a familiar face." As they prepared to leave, Lisa grabbed Ryan's arm. "Bring her home," she whispered. "Please." The mountain terrain was rugged, forcing them to abandon vehicles a mile from the outlook. Ryan checked his gear one last time: bulletproof vest, radio, service weapon, all while trying to quiet the voice of fear in his head. "We'll find her," Samantha reassured him, reading his thoughts. "Sophie's smart. She knows to stay calm and wait for you." Through binoculars, they could see movement at the outlook. 3 figures, one much smaller than the others. Sophie. "I count 2 suspects," the tactical commander whispered. "Adult males. One appears armed. The child seems unharmed." Ryan could just make out Sophie sitting on a rock, her yellow jacket bright against the granite mountainside. One man stood near her, while another appeared to be examining the rock face with some kind of tool. "They're looking for a hidden compartment," Ryan realized. Sophie must have told them where to look. The commander outlined the approach. 2 teams would converge simultaneously, using the rocky terrain for cover. Our priority is securing the child, he emphasized. The suspects and any artifacts are secondary objectives. Ryan nodded, his focus entirely on Sophie's small figure in the distance. The operation began smoothly, both teams advancing undetected. But when they were about 50 yards out, disaster struck. A member of the second team dislodged a rock, sending it tumbling down the slope. The armed suspect immediately turned, spotted them, and grabbed Sophie. "Police! Freeze!" the commander shouted through a bullhorn. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The suspect holding Sophie began backing toward the cliff edge, using her as a shield. The second man grabbed something from a newly opened crevice in the rock face, a small package wrapped in oilcloth. "Stay back or the girl goes over the edge," the armed man shouted. Ryan stepped forward, hands raised. "Let her go. This is between us." The man's face registered shock as he recognized Ryan. "Officer Miller, how fitting. You should thank us. We gave your daughter a nice scenic drive." "Daddy!" Sophie called out, her voice trembling but strong. "It's okay, sunshine," Ryan called back, still advancing slowly. "Everything's going to be okay." The second man, clutching the recovered package, hissed urgently to his partner, "We've got what we came for. Let's go." "Not yet," the armed man replied. "First, the police are going to back off and let us leave with our insurance policy." He tightened his grip on Sophie. Ryan could see the fear in his daughter's eyes, but also something else: determination. She caught his gaze and gave the tiniest nod. In that moment, Sophie did something they hadn't anticipated. She went completely limp, dropping her full weight suddenly. The surprised kidnapper momentarily loosened his grip, and Sophie twisted away, rolling beneath a nearby boulder. The tactical team seized the opportunity, advancing quickly. The armed suspect fired a wild shot before Samantha tackled him to the ground. The second man, seeing his partner subdued, made a desperate dash along the cliff edge, the ancient package still clutched in his hands. Ryan pursued him, closing the distance rapidly. The man reached a narrow section of the path, the package threatening to slip from his grasp as he ran. In his panic to secure it, he lost his footing. Time seemed to stop as both the man and the priceless artifact tumbled toward the cliff edge. Ryan dove forward, managing to grab the package as it slid over the rocks. But the suspect disappeared over the edge with a terrified scream. Heart pounding, Ryan secured the artifact and rushed back to where Sophie was being attended by a police medic. "Daddy!" she cried, running into his arms. Ryan held her close, feeling her small heart racing against his chest. "You were so brave, sunshine. So incredibly brave. I remembered what you taught me," she said, her voice muffled against his jacket. "If a bad person grabs you, make yourself heavy and get small." Over Sophie's head, Ryan met Samantha's gaze. She gave him a thumbs up. The armed kidnapper was in custody, already being led away in handcuffs. Later, as a helicopter transported them back to the city, Sophie fell asleep against Ryan's shoulder, emotionally exhausted but physically unharmed. In his lap lay the recovered artifact, still wrapped in its protective covering. "What do you think it is?" Samantha asked quietly. Ryan carefully pulled back a corner of the ancient oilcloth to reveal a small golden tablet covered in cuneiform writing. "Whatever it is, it's going back where it belongs." The National History Museum was unusually crowded for a Tuesday morning. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, casting a golden glow across the marble floors as visitors gathered around a special new exhibit. At the center of attention stood a small golden tablet covered in ancient cuneiform writing, displayed in a custom-designed case with perfect lighting to highlight its intricate engravings. This remarkable artifact, the museum curator explained to the assembled crowd, provides the missing link in our understanding of ancient Mesopotamian astronomy. For centuries, scholars wondered how these ancient peoples achieved such precise celestial calculations. This tablet contains mathematical formulas that were thought to have been developed thousands of years later. In the front row, 7-year-old Sophie Miller listened with rapt attention, her yellow dress bright against the museum's subdued colors. Beside her, Officer Ryan Miller stood in his dress uniform, one hand resting protectively on his daughter's shoulder. The Eagles tablet, as we've named it, was nearly lost forever. The curator continued, gesturing to the golden artifact. It was stolen as part of an international smuggling operation that targeted historical treasures around the world. Its recovery is a testament to the dedication of our local police department and, the curator smiled warmly at Sophie, the extraordinary courage of one very observant young lady. The crowd applauded as Sophie blushed, looking up at her father with a mixture of pride and shyness. Ryan squeezed her shoulder gently, his heart swelling with love for his brave little girl. 6 months had passed since the harrowing events at Little Eagle. 6 months of healing, of therapy sessions, of gradually rebuilding a sense of safety. There had been difficult moments, nights when Sophie would wake screaming from nightmares, days when sudden noises would make her jump and look fearfully over her shoulder. But there had also been remarkable progress, moments of joy and triumph that reminded Ryan how resilient children could be when surrounded by love and understanding. After the ceremony, as visitors examined the new exhibit, the museum director approached them with a small velvet box. "Sophie," she said, kneeling to meet the child at eye level, "we have something special for you." Inside the box was a perfect miniature replica of the Eagles tablet, scaled down to fit in Sophie's palm. On the back was an inscription, "For Sophie Miller, whose courage preserved history for generations to come." Sophie's eyes widened as she accepted the gift. "It's beautiful," she whispered, tracing the tiny engravings with her finger. "There's more," the director said, standing and gesturing toward a wall near the exhibit. There hung a framed plaque that read, "The Eagles tablet was recovered through the extraordinary courage and observant eye of Sophie Miller, age 6, who recognized the importance of what she saw and bravely spoke the truth." Ryan felt Sophie's hand slip into his, squeezing tightly. He looked down to see tears shimmering in her eyes. But they weren't tears of fear. They were tears of pride. "You did that, Sunshine," he said softly. "You saved a piece of history that might have been lost forever." As they left the museum, they found Lisa waiting on the steps outside. She had attended the ceremony but had kept a respectful distance, still working to rebuild her relationship with Sophie through the supervised visitation program the courts had established. "You were wonderful, sweetheart," Lisa said, hugging Sophie carefully. "I'm so proud of you." Sophie beamed, showing her mother the miniature tablet. "Look what they gave me, and they put my name on the wall, Mommy." "I saw," Lisa smiled, genuine joy lighting her face. "My brave, smart girl." The three of them walked together toward the park across from the museum, an outing they had planned to celebrate the special day. It was one of many small steps they had taken as a restructured family, moments where Sophie could see both parents working together for her well-being despite their separation. At the park, Sophie ran ahead to the swings while Ryan and Lisa sat on a nearby bench, keeping her in view. "She's doing so much better," Lisa observed. "The therapist says her progress is remarkable." Ryan nodded. "She still has nightmares sometimes, but they're less frequent. And she's talking more, not just about what happened, but about everything. It's like she found her voice again." "I've been thinking," Lisa said hesitantly, "about what happens when my supervised visitation period ends next month." Ryan tensed slightly. The custody arrangements had been a source of tension, with Lisa initially fighting for more time than the courts were willing to grant after her failure to protect Sophie from the dangerous situation in her home. "I'm not going to push for full joint custody," Lisa continued, surprising him. "Not yet. Sophie needs stability, and right now, that's with you in the yellow room where she feels safe." She looked at him directly. "I made mistakes, Ryan. Terrible mistakes that put our daughter in danger. I'm not going to make another one by rushing this." Relief washed over Ryan. "Thank you," he said simply. "That means a lot." They watched Sophie pump her legs on the swing, her face tilted up to the sun, yellow dress fluttering in the breeze. "She's wearing yellow all the time now," Lisa noted with a small smile. "Ever since we redid her room," Ryan agreed. "She says it's her brave color." Later that afternoon, after Lisa had said goodbye with plans to see Sophie for their regular weekend visit, Ryan and Sophie returned home. The house that had once been a place of fear and watchfulness had gradually transformed back into a sanctuary. New security systems remained in place. Some habits from those frightening days would never quite fade, but the feeling of being hunted had dissipated. "Can I put my tablet on my special shelf, Daddy?" Sophie asked as they entered the house. "Absolutely," Ryan replied, following her up to the yellow room. The room had evolved over the past months. The original mural of friendly forest animals remained, but Sophie had added her own touches: photographs, drawings, small treasures that marked milestones in her recovery. The special shelf had been Ryan's idea, a place to display objects that represented strength and courage to Sophie. Already on the shelf were her crystal reliquary from the first museum ceremony, the dream catcher from Samantha, a special badge that Ryan's police department had created just for her, and a smooth river stone painted with the word "brave" from her therapist. The miniature tablet would join these symbols of her journey. As Sophie carefully positioned her new treasure on the shelf, Ryan noticed an envelope on her desk, the invitation from the museum to speak at their children's educational program next month. They had discussed it, but Sophie hadn't given her final answer. "Have you thought more about the museum's invitation?" he asked gently. "It's okay if you don't want to do it." Sophie was quiet for a moment, looking at her special shelf with all its tokens of courage. "I think I want to," she said finally. "Dr. Eleanor says that talking about scary things can help make them less scary. And maybe if I tell other kids about what happened, it might help them be brave too." Ryan knelt beside her, once again amazed by his daughter's wisdom and strength. "I think you're right, Sunshine. Your story might help a lot of people." After dinner, as the evening routine began, Ryan noticed Sophie bringing her sketchbook to the kitchen table, something she did most nights now. Drawing, once a trigger for frightening memories, had been reclaimed as a source of joy and expression through her therapy. "What are you drawing tonight?" Ryan asked, peeking over her shoulder as he cleared the dishes. Sophie held up her work in progress, a colorful scene of the museum with the eagle's tablet at the center, surrounded by people looking at it with wonder. "I'm drawing the tablet in its new home, where everybody can learn from it." "That's beautiful, Sunshine." As bedtime approached, Sophie's nightly fears, which had once been overwhelming, had faded to occasional concerns. Still, their bedtime ritual remained sacred, a time for reassurance and connection. "All secure for the night, Sunshine," Ryan reported after their routine check of locks and security systems. "Everything's safe." Sophie nodded seriously from her bed, already tucked beneath her favorite yellow comforter. Above her, the dream catcher swayed gently in the breeze from the partially opened window, a window that Sophie had over time decided could be open again at night. "Daddy," she said as Ryan sat on the edge of her bed, "do you remember when I was really scared, and you said we all have jobs to do?" "I remember," Ryan smiled. "I said my job was catching bad people." "And my job was remembering what I saw," Sophie continued. "But I've been thinking, that wasn't really my most important job." Ryan tilted his head curiously. "No? What was your most important job?" "Being brave enough to tell even when the bad men said not to," Sophie replied, her voice soft but confident. "That was the hardest part. But I did it." Ryan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Yes, you did, Sunshine. You did it perfectly." "Dr. Eleanor says that's why the nightmares are going away," Sophie explained. "Because I know now that telling the truth is stronger than any scary thing." Ryan leaned forward to kiss her forehead. "That's a very wise thing to understand." As Sophie settled down to sleep, Ryan turned on her star projector, another addition to the yellow room that transformed the ceiling into a galaxy of gentle moving lights. The soft hum of the projector and the slow rotation of stars had become a soothing constant in their nighttime routine. "Good night, Sunshine," Ryan whispered. "I love you more than all those stars." "Love you too, Daddy," Sophie murmured, already drifting toward sleep. Ryan paused in the doorway, watching the stars dance across his daughter's peaceful face. The yellow room, once shadowed by fear and secrets, now radiated with light and truth and safety. Sophie's journey had transformed them both, teaching Ryan about a kind of courage he'd never fully understood before, even after years on the police force. Downstairs, Ryan found a message waiting on his phone, Samantha texting to check how the museum ceremony had gone. He smiled as he typed his reply. Perfect. Sophie was the star of the show. The Eagles tablet is officially home, and so are we. He looked back up the stairs toward the soft glow coming from the yellow room. In the darkness that had once threatened to engulf them, Sophie had found her light, and in doing so had illuminated the path for them all. Outside, the last light of day faded from the sky, but inside the little yellow room, Sophie slept peacefully, surrounded by stars that would shine all through the night.